I never thought my life would collapse so fast. My name is Michael Carter, and not too long ago, I had what most people would call a perfect life. I was married to Anna, the woman I believed was my soulmate, living in a cozy little house just outside the city. We had dreams, small ones, but they felt big enough for us. I used to wake up early, make her breakfast, and thank God for giving me a partner who seemed to make every day brighter. But life has a cruel way of reminding you how fragile happiness really is. It all changed one quiet Sunday morning. I walked into the living room expecting to see Anna watching TV like always, but she wasn't there. Instead, there was just a folded note lying on the couch. I remember the feeling, that slow sinking panic in my stomach as I opened it and read the three words that shattered my world. I'm leaving you. I didn't believe it at first. I thought maybe she'd gone to clear her head. But when I opened the closet and saw her things missing, that's when it hit me. She was gone. Just like that. No warning, no goodbye, no explanation. For days, I tried to call her. I sent messages, emails, anything to make sense of what had just happened. But every attempt ended in silence. 2 weeks later, a thick envelope arrived in the mail from her lawyer. Divorce papers. That was it. No conversation, no closure. The woman I thought I'd grow old with had chosen to erase me like I'd never existed.
The months that followed were the darkest of my life. Divorce isn't just a legal process, it's an emotional war. Anna didn't just want to leave, she wanted to take everything. She fought for the house, the car, our savings, even our dog, Max. I still remember sitting in that courtroom trying to stay calm while she smiled at her lawyer like this was just another business deal. I wasn't even angry, just numb. It's strange how someone who once promised to love you forever can turn into a stranger overnight. When the judge's gavel hit the table, it was final. Anna got the house, most of our savings, and Max. I walked out with a small box of clothes and a few personal things. That's all. Within weeks, I started drowning in debt. I couldn't focus at work, and soon I lost my job, too. Rent payments fell behind, bills piled up, and little by little, everything I had built started slipping through my fingers. I told myself I'd get through it, but deep down, I felt completely worthless. I remember one night, sitting on the floor of my empty apartment, surrounded by unpaid bills and the echo of my own silence. That's when I realized there was nothing left. No home, no family, no love. Just me. Eventually, I couldn't even afford that apartment anymore. So I packed what was left of my life into a single backpack and walked out into the cold night, unsure of where I was headed next. It's hard to describe what it feels like to be homeless until you've lived it. The nights are long and the days blend together in a haze of exhaustion and shame. I slept on park benches, under bridges, wherever I could find a dry spot. The cold wasn't the worst part. The loneliness was. People would pass by, pretending not to see me, like I was part of the scenery. Once, a little boy pointed at me and asked his mom why that man was sleeping outside. She quickly pulled him away and said, "Don't look." That moment cut deeper than any insult. I picked up odd jobs when I could, cleaning windows, carrying boxes, whatever paid a few dollars. I learned to live off coffee and whatever food shelters could spare. But at night, when the city quieted down, I'd look up at the stars and whisper, "Why me?" I had no one left to talk to, no one who cared whether I woke up the next day. Every breath felt heavy. Every morning felt pointless. But even in that darkness, A small voice inside me refused to give up. I kept hoping that somehow, somewhere, something would change. And then, one night, it did. It was a freezing evening in December. The wind was sharp, and the park, where I usually slept, was almost deserted. I was sitting on a bench, sipping a cup of cheap coffee, when a black car pulled up nearby. I didn't pay much attention at first. People sometimes parked there to make phone calls or rest. But then a man stepped out, dressed in a black suit, holding a leather briefcase. He looked completely out of place in that area. He started walking toward me, and for a second I thought he was lost. Then he said in a calm, steady voice, "Excuse me, are you Michael Carter?" I stared at him, confused. "Yeah," I said cautiously. "Why?" The man smiled politely and said, "My name is Daniel Rogers. I'm an attorney. I've been trying to find you for weeks." I laughed a little. "An attorney? You must be mistaken. I can't even afford lunch, let alone a lawyer." Daniel didn't flinch. He opened his briefcase and handed me an envelope. "It's about your great-uncle, Benjamin Carter," he said. "He passed away a few months ago, and you're his only living relative." For a second, I thought it was a scam. But then I remembered. My mother used to mention an Uncle Ben who moved away before I was born. A quiet man, always working, never married. I tore open the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a letter written in old, faded ink, and when I read it, my heart nearly stopped.
Dear Michael, it began. If you're reading this, it means my time has come. I never had children, and you were the last of our family. Life has a strange way of testing people, and from what I've heard, you've been tested more than most. I leave my estate to you, not because you're family by blood, but because I believe you'll understand the value of rebuilding from nothing. I read those words over and over, my hands trembling. For a moment, I forgot the cold, the hunger, the pain. I felt seen. Daniel looked at me and said gently, "Mr. Carter, your uncle's assets total approximately $47 million. I thought I misheard him. 47 million? I repeated, my voice barely a whisper. He nodded. Yes, sir. You've inherited everything. My mind went blank. The park, the cold bench, the endless nights, all of it disappeared in that moment. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. After losing everything, life had just handed me a miracle. That night, for the first time in months, I didn't sleep on a bench. Daniel booked me a hotel room and told me to come to his office the next morning to sign the papers. As I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, I whispered to myself, "Uncle Ben, wherever you are, thank you."
The next few weeks were like stepping into a dream. I met with financial advisors, lawyers, and estate managers who explained what I now owned. Multiple properties, businesses, and a fortune I couldn't even comprehend. I bought a small apartment downtown, nothing fancy, just enough to feel human again. I donated to the homeless shelter that had once fed me and started volunteering there every weekend. The people there didn't know my story at first, and I liked it that way. I wasn't there to brag. I was there to give back. Slowly, I began to rebuild my life, piece by piece. I reconnected with the few old friends who had stood by me when I had nothing. I helped them find jobs, paid off their debts quietly. I even started a foundation in my uncle's name, one that helped people who had lost everything start over. Every smile, every tear of gratitude reminded me that my uncle hadn't just left me money, he had given me purpose. But just when I thought my past was behind me, it came knocking again. It was a quiet afternoon. I was at the shelter serving lunch to a group of people when I saw a familiar face walk through the door. Anna, my ex-wife. For a second, I froze. She looked different, tired, worn down, her once perfect hair now dull and her expression desperate. She walked up to me, eyes filled with tears. "Michael," she said softly, "I made a mistake." I didn't say anything. I just stood there, holding the tray. She went on, her voice shaking. "I thought leaving you was the right thing. I thought he loved me. But he left me, and I have no one. Please, can we talk?" Her words hit hard, but I didn't feel the same pain I used to. I had moved on. I'd healed. I sighed and said quietly, "Anna, you didn't just leave me. You erased me. You took everything and didn't even look back. Why now?" She looked down, her hands trembling. "Because I heard about your inheritance," she whispered. That was it, the truth. I smiled sadly and said, "You know, Anna, when I had nothing, you left. Now that I have everything, I see you were the one who had nothing all along." Then I turned and walked away.
In the months that followed, I found peace. I learned that forgiveness isn't about letting someone back into your life. It's about freeing yourself from their shadow. My uncle's money gave me security, but his wisdom gave me something far greater: strength. His letter stayed framed on my desk, and I read it every morning as a reminder that wealth isn't measured by money, but by character. Today, I run that foundation full-time. We've helped hundreds of people find homes, jobs, and dignity again. Sometimes I look at them and see myself, lost, hopeless, waiting for a miracle. And every time I help one of them stand up again, I feel like I'm honoring Uncle Ben's last wish. He didn't just change my life, he gave me a reason to live again.
Life can strip you down to nothing. It can take your love, your home, your pride, and leave you broken. But that's not where the story ends. Sometimes rock bottom is where you find out who you truly are. Losing everything taught me to value what money can't buy: kindness, compassion, and second chances. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this: never lose faith in your own story. Even in the darkest moments, life can surprise you in ways you never imagined. Because one day, when you least expect it, someone might walk up to you and ask a question that changes your life forever. Just like that stranger asked me, "Are you Michael?" And that's my story. From losing everything to finding more than I ever dreamed of. If my journey touched your heart, I'd love to hear from you. Tell me where you're watching from in the comments and which part of the story connected with you the most. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you want to hear more powerful, emotional stories like this. Because sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most beautiful new beginnings.